Good morning, everyone. Leah Dixon here in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia. If you watch my regular Facebook Lives, you'll know I'm always just a few minutes late. Every time I try and connect with my tech, it seems to do something different for me. And so thank you for your patience. This is my October monthly online workshop. I try to do one of these a month, usually on the second or third Saturday of the month, but I'll always post in advance. And this month I'm going to be focusing on the Festive Foliage stamp set. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop so that you can see that one. And then because it's just foliage, I have paired it up with a Christmas to Remember stamp set. So let's see here if I can switch over.
There we go. So this is our Festive Foliage stamp set. It's a full background, well, almost full background stamp set. And then I'm pairing it with the Christmas to Remember stamp set. Beautiful, beautiful product. All right. So let's just see here. I am just going to do this. All right, so I can see that some of you are watching. So if you want to say hi in the comments. Oh, good morning, Gail. Yeah, so that's what we're going to be working with, and I just wanted to show you that there's actually a lot of ways that you can use a background. Oh, echoey. Oh, no.
Thank you. There we go. I had turned off my mic on my phone, but somehow I must have bumped something when I was putting it in the holder. So the Festive Foliage is a background stamp set, but I wanted to show you that there's a few different ways we can use background stamp sets so that we're not just doing kind of the same thing with them every time. So when I use a background stamp set, I do like to use my Stamparatus. So Stamparatus is a great tool if you are doing kind of any bulk stamping. So anytime you're making 10 or more of something, this just really allows you to line things up. It's also great when you're trying to do two-step stamping, and it is fabulous for background stamps because you can really get a good handle on where you're pressing down to get a good clear image, and also for lining things up. So I have already put my stamp on here. I inked it up and I stamped it once on, I just have a sheet of grid paper that goes into my Stamparatus. So I've stamped it once onto my grid paper so I can see where it's going to line up. That way I can position my papers properly over top of it so I get the image that I want. So today, the first thing that we're going to be doing is I've got here a piece of vellum cardstock. So this is not your average vellum. It's much thicker and much sturdier for stamping on. So I am going to place this down onto my image, and I'm just kind of looking at it, lining it up, making sure the edges kind of land where I want them to. Now, unfortunately, I am not able to really use a magnet to hold this in place. Normally, that's exactly what I would do, and I am going to try to just catch the one little corner. But I'm stamping on a piece of paper that is virtually the same size as my stamp, so that becomes a little bit tricky. All right, I am now going to ink this up, and I'll move this over so you can see the full thing. So I've got my stamp here on my clear plate. I've got my vellum attached over here. And I am going to ink up this whole stamp with Versamark. So I'm just literally taking the whole stamp pad to the stamp and patting it down and trying to get a full coverage on this image. All right. So when I think I've got the whole thing, I can kind of just wiggle it and look at the edges, and I'll be able to see if there's spots I've missed. And once I'm sure that it is all inked up, I am going to close this up. Now I'm hoping that magnet's out of the way. Oh, good, it is. I'm going to close that up and then really press the full image and kind of use the grid paper to be very systematic about it, to make sure that you're getting the whole image on here. All right, and then we can lift that, remove our image, and I can just close that up and set it off to the side. Now for this next bit, I am just going to grab a scrap paper, and I'm going to lay my stamped image there and get my gold embossing powder. Oh, hi Elaine. Oh, sunny Manitoba. I wish. I'm going to be stamping all weekend because it is so nasty outside. It has rained so much. Our school was actually starting to flood yesterday. It's just awful. So now that I've put that gold powder on there, I'm just going to tap it off. And I'm just double checking that I got gold powder everywhere. Being that I dumped the whole container on here, I should have. But, you know, we'll just double check. Uh-oh, I got a runaway piece. All right, and then I'm just going to flip it over and give it a little tap to get any excess gold off that I don't want. You can also come in and use like a small paintbrush and paint away any bits that you don't want, but that looks pretty good to me. So I'm going to set that off to the side. And the reason I did this on a piece of paper is because gold is one I don't use too often. So I'm not just going to keep it out in a tray, and that way I can just come in, pour it straight back into my jar, and put it away for the next time. All right, so put that away and move those out of the way. Oh, I got a little bit of powder over here. Darn it. There we go. So I'll put those away for the next time. And we are going to heat this up now. So I've got my heat tool here, and I don't want my paper blowing away on me, so I'm going to just hold one end while I heat up the rest of this, and then we'll turn it. Alright, so that took a little while because it's a big image, but we got the whole thing heat embossed. Now, my paper has a little bit of a wrinkle in it now. I'm not worried about that because of how I'm going to be adhering this to my card front, but you can always heat up the other side to get it to bend back the other way and just stop when you see it's bent enough. But we're going to be using some pretty solid adhesive on this. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip this over so that I'm working on the back side of my image, so not the side where the embossing is. And I'm going to color the back of my image. Let's see, I have dark cherry cobbler that I'm going to be using. It's a bit of an unusual color combo I'm using, actually. I've got dark Bermuda Bay that I'm going to be using. I'm trying to use a lot of dark colors because I want them to really pop through. Okay, and so then, what was the other one? Oh, yeah. And then I didn't use dark on this one. I used a light Night of Navy. And what was my last color? Oh, right. And no, it was just Jade. And then I used some Just Jade. And again, the dark one. So I want all these kind of dark colors, and I'm going to create my background that way. Oh, I love embossing on vellum. It just pops to me. So I am going to take my finer tip on this one because I'm working kind of in some small spaces, And you don't even need to color. So you can see there, I didn't even color all the way to the lines, because when you flip it over, you can't see anything that's behind the gold anyways. So I'm going to just come in here, and while I do a little bit of coloring, I'll just let you guys know about some stuff that is going on this weekend. I do have an ordering special for this weekend. So today, tomorrow, and Monday, because I won't get around to looking at everything until Monday night probably, and like being able to place an order or anything. So those 3 days, and then on Tuesday I'll have some time. I have an ordering special for every $60 order. I'll actually send you a pack of in-color jewels. And so you'll get to actually see those in a little bit, because we're going to be using them on our cards today. They are absolutely amazing. All right, so I know that technically what I am coloring here is not holly berries. These are actually leaves. But I really wanted to be able to incorporate some red into this card. So I've just decided that we're going to color these leaves in a gorgeous red. I don't know. I have like a reddish purple tree in my backyard that has round leaves like this. So maybe it's one of those. So I've got that colored, so I can put away my cherry cobbler. And then I am going to use my, what is this, Just Jade, and come in and do all of my holly leaves. And so I'm using the wider tip because I just want to do this really quickly. It doesn't have to be super careful and detailed. We're just basically try and stay inside the lines. And that's about the only objective here. All right, so do that. The other thing that you're going to notice on my online workshop today, and I do apologize that I don't have the graphics ready yet. I was working on them this morning and just kind of ran out of time, but I'll get them done as soon as this video's over, is I have finally the information sorted out for my birthday club. So I'm going to be running I think it's 6-month long birthday club from December until, would that be April? And the idea is that we are going to create 6 birthday cards each month together. It's just 3 designs, and then you'll make 2 of each of the designs. And the cost of the class is $45, but with that you get like a minimum of $30 worth of product, and then, you know, I got to pay for the shipping and taxes and all of that as well on there. So yeah, so that is something that I will have more details up this morning about. So watch for that in here. And yeah, kind of excited about that. I know that I always need birthday cards going into the new year. It's quite a busy time for me in terms of birthdays. And so I'm excited to be able to do that with you guys instead of stamping alone in my studio. And then I also have some card classes coming up in late November. Early November gets a little bit busy with Remembrance Day and birthdays and stuff like that. So in late November, I've got some card classes coming up, and I'll be posting about those later today as well. All right, so yeah, that's about it. So again, I'm just, you know, kind of going through and coloring. I'm trying to color each type of leaf in a similar color. So I'm using the Bermuda Bay right now on these large leafy ones. And we're just about done because I'm not coloring the more piney ones. I'm just going to leave them gold. All right. So when I first saw this stamp set, I absolutely fell in love with it. Oh, hi Cindy, nice to see you. So I've just embossed the Festive Foliage stamp set with gold onto a piece of vellum cardstock, and I'm coloring it, and I just realized I had forgotten to turn this around and kind of show you guys how that color shows through on the vellum when you color it. So I've used Just Jade for the holly, Bermuda Bay for the bigger leaves, Cherry Cobbler for the smaller leaves, and now I'm going to go in with some Misty Moonlight for these long leaves. And so you do want to use bold colors. If you're using soft colors, they're just going to get so soft, like you're not even going to be able to see them. So I am using very dark colors on here. You can even get away with using like extreme brights on this and having them be kind of soft because they're coming through the vellum. So it's kind of a nice way to use your darks and your brights without overwhelming a card. All right. So just a few of these, and yeah, I love how quick and easy it is to color these, and you really, like, aside from staying inside the lines, you don't have to kind of worry too much about how you're coloring. All right. And I think that is all of the leaves. Excellent. So with that done, I'm going to put those on. Put the lids on those and put them away. There we go. And so that is our piece all colored in. Now to really make this pop though, I'm actually going to adhere it to a piece of basic white. Where did it go? I had all the bits here. There it is. All right, so I have an Evening Evergreen card base. And then I have a piece of basic white that is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, so I just get like a nice Evening Evergreen frame on here. And then this piece is also cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and so it's going to line up perfectly on here, like edge to edge. So I'm actually going to line it up edge to edge, and then get my Seal Plus. And with that lined up, let's just actually make sure it's lined up. Now I am lining that up first before I've actually put any adhesive on here. So once it's lined up, I am going to come in here and just do a strip right down the center. Now the reason I am confidently just doing a strip down the center, it's not wanting to cooperate, I think I'm almost out, there we go, is because I'm going to be putting my ribbon and adhesive there, and so I know that we're not going to see that, so we're not going to see any of the adhesive. Now the Seal Plus is a great adhesive because it comes off in tiny, tiny strips. So I am now actually able to come in and just put the tiniest little strip in the corners and like behind my colored images, and just put the tiniest bit of adhesive on there that also is not going to show up when I push this down. So it's completely hidden. Oh, I apparently didn't even get any adhesive there. There we go. So our embossing is really nicely hiding that adhesive so that we don't see any glue marks. And then we're going to do the same up on the other side. Just where you know that you're going to have images hiding it, that's where we're going to put the adhesive. There we go. So now that is really popping since we have it on that white background. And we're going to attach this to our card front. Now you could use, oh sorry, we're actually going to have to tie the ribbon around it first. Oh my goodness. Once you do decide to attach this, so you could use dimensionals to pop it up or glue it down flat. I tend to use dimensionals when I have used ribbon of any kind. Yeah, that technique, Cindy, is an oldie but a goodie, eh? All right, so I am coming in here, and this is actually our Simply Elegant trim, just not in its package. I've just thrown it into a jar. You get a roll of the gold and a roll of the silver, and it's called Simply Elegant trim. We're going to be using the gold on this card. I'm almost out. Let's see, let's find my end. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie a bow on my left-hand side. So I'm going to leave a good chunk here to tie a bow with. And then I'm going to wrap this around. Now, normally I would wrap this around more than once, but we're going to cover a lot of it with our sentiment. So I'm just going to wrap it once and be done with it. All right. So the biggest part of this is the bow, not the double wrapping, because we're not going to see a lot of that. So now that I've got that wrapped, I'm going to tie a knot. And I do find with this cord, it is important to tie the knot because otherwise this cord really like slips around and is hard to tie a bow with. So get your knot on there, get your thread all kind of lined up, and then you can tie your bow. And so I always do my bunny ears and wrap them around each other. Oh, the time difference, Lynn. You are, I don't know, I think we're about 20 minutes in, but really we haven't done a ton. I just showed the stamp set, which is Festive Foliage. So right there, that's our Festive Foliage. And we embossed it in gold, and I spent some time coloring the back of it, not the front of it, with Stampin' blends. So now that I've got that bow tied, I am going to just slide it over a little bit more to the left, and then I'm going to trim these ends, not too much, but just enough. Like, I don't like having the ends of my ribbon kind of falling off my card. There we go. So we've got that, and I do want it to kind of sit sideways, so I'm going to just kind of fiddle with it and adjust it a bit to make it sit more on an angle. There we go. All right. With that done, I'm just going to set those off to the side for a moment. Bring in a strip of, this is just 1/2 inch basic white, just a scrap that I had. I'm going to bring in my Stampin' Pearson mat, just so I have like a good foam behind it for doing my stamping. And the sentiment I'm using is Season's Greetings. Oh, that kind of difference, Lynn. Yeah, we're in British Columbia, so it's 10:30 in the morning now. So I'm using Christmas to Remember and the Season's Greetings stamp here, and I'm going to stamp it in Evening Evergreen so that it kind of, well, not kind of, it does coordinate with the background that I chose, the Evening Evergreen background. All right, so I'm going to open that up, grab my sentiment, and ink that. Now, when I line this one up, I try to line it up so that my G's are going to be right at the bottom of my 1/2 inch strip. Otherwise, it just kind of looks like the whole thing's up too high in the air. All right, so that is done. And I am just going to snip the ends of this with my scissors, and just like on a little bit of an angle. Oh, those are not the ones I want. I want my snips. There we go. And so I just kind of hold it on an angle and snip, and then turn it around, same angle, and snip. And there is our sentiment ready to be attached to our card. I am going to use dimensionals to attach this to our card front. And I am using the big ones because I want full coverage above and below this thin gold trim that I've got. I don't want my sentiment sitting kind of lopsided because it's on one side or the other of my ribbon or my trim. So I'm going to peel those off. And I did use 3 because otherwise I find the center gets a little bit, like it flips a little bit when we're putting over top of trim like this. All right, so I'm putting this down, and I want to make sure that my dimensionals really grab the cardstock behind my trim. There we go. All right, now this whole piece I'm going to put dimensionals behind and pop this onto my card front. There we go, and a lot of them. I use way too many dimensionals. There we go, peel those off. And then the last thing, once we get this attached to our card front, we're going to want to make sure to put a liner inside our card because, oh, don't put this inside our card. Oh my goodness. We want to put a liner inside our card because we've used Evening Evergreen. It'll be very hard for somebody to write in this card if we don't put a liner in there. All right, so there is our card front, and actually before we put our liner in, I'm going to grab our in color jewels. So this is my little thank you gift to anybody who places an order during this workshop this weekend, is the in color gems. Mine are almost gone, but you get all 5 of the in colors, so polished pink, pale papaya, evening evergreen, fresh freesia, and soft succulent in these gorgeous shimmery gems. And I am actually going to use some evening evergreen ones on this card. So just kind of actually where there's already those little kind of embellishment dots, I am going to pop in here and cover up some of them with these beautiful evening evergreen dots. Pop that one right there. All right, and just kind of make it shine a little bit. So that is our embellishment on the front. I'm going to keep those out because we're using those on our other cards. And now for the inside, I always just keep a whole stack of basic white cardstock that's cut at 4 by 5 1/4. When my basic white comes in, I just immediately cut it up to this size because it's pretty much all I use it for is card fronts and card innards. Now, to do this, I am actually going to stamp a little bit of this image onto the corner of my insert. So I don't want to get my foam pad here, my Stampin' Pierce mat, dirty. So I'm just grabbing a piece of scrap paper. At school, when people accidentally photocopy nothingness, we get these papers with all these little black specks on them. And, oh, and actually I don't need to do that because I'm using this on the Stamparatus. But yeah, I grab all those ruined papers from work and bring them home as scrap paper. But actually, I'm using the Stamparatus, so I don't even need to. That's perfect. So the ink that we have on here is Versamark. So I could clean it off, but I don't have to clean it off. So I'm not going to. And I'm going to stamp this in Evening Evergreen. No, there it is. I just had it, so I should be able to find it. Now I want this in my bottom corner. So I'm going to just kind of figure out how I can put just a tiny bit of it. And I think to do my bottom corner, I'm going to have to do this one just because of how it's sitting on the block. So that's going to be the opposite side. There we go. And, oh, I should actually use the magnets to hold this. There we go. That's what they're for. There. And push that down. Now the great thing about this is if I didn't ink that properly, I'll be able to just close it again, but that actually inked up just beautifully. So now I've got just a little bit of foliage on the inside, and I can give that a little color. It's going to be a little bit darker when I color it this time, just because, actually I'm going to color on here so that my color, if I go off, it goes onto here. So I might actually, because it's going to be a bit darker, I'm going to use my light cherry cobbler instead of my dark cherry cobbler to color this in. And I'm going to stick with the colors that I used before, which means for these kind of piney ones that I mostly have, I actually didn't even color them in. So I'm not going to this time. And so I've just got these few little leaves down here. And I think I'm going to stick with my Just Jade for those. So just come in, do a quick little color. And it's just a nice little accent that you can put into your card, having the little stamped image inside. You could do this on your envelope as well. And you know what, actually, even though I didn't color these on my other one, I am going to color them on this one, just because we don't have any gold outline happening, so it's looking a little plain. There we go. Just do those quickly. And they're nice because they're so tiny, it's literally just, you know, one little swipe across them and they're colored. You don't want to color too much when you're using blends, because otherwise it will start to bleed onto the paper and you'll get fuzzy images. So just one swipe is good. Wow, there's a lot of these pine needles. There we go. And then for the little dots around, you could totally go in, and I might actually here with my Misty Moonlight, I'm just going to kind of dot over them to add a little bit of color. There we go. All right, so that is our beautiful piece for inside our card, all created. Set that off to the side, bring our card back in, and then this one just gets glued right inside. And I am going to use liquid glue. I find it's way easier to use liquid glue and be able to fiddle it around and get it lined up nicely than if I'm using a stronger adhesive or like even a tape runner. Because this way I can kind of wiggle it if it's not right. All right. There we go. And yeah, I can just wiggle that over. There we go. So that is the inside of our card. Now I leave mine blank on the insides, like in terms of sentiments, and if I am going to stamp something, I'll stamp it when I'm filling it in for somebody, when I know, you know, what sentiment I want to go with that. So that is our first card. It's definitely our most detailed card. The other ways that we're going to use our stamp set today are actually really fast and great for making like a series of cards if you need to make a whole chunk of cards. So that being said, I'm going to bring our Stamparatus back. We are going to start out for our next card with just a basic piece of 4 by 5 1/4 cardstock. Nothing fancy going on here. And I am going to get my Bermuda Bay. It is probably my favorite color. I'm going to get my Bermuda Bay and a blending brush. And I am going to put some Bermuda Bay all over the background of this card. And so just going to kind of grab the end and swirl it around. And we're going to get a good coat across this whole piece. I could have used just a piece of Bermuda Bay cardstock, but then the color would be much darker and more solid. And I really want something that kind of looks imperfect and varied in tone. So you're going to see I'm actually even applying it darker in some spots and lighter in others. And I want just kind of a really uneven but beautiful background to this. This is hands down my favorite color for all seasons. All right, just about done. Just a little bit more here. So you can apply this as evenly, as heavily, as lightly as you want to get the background color that you want. That is looking just perfect to me. Put that brush away, that ink away. And now I am going to line this up on my paper here. And I'm going to use my magnet. And I'm lining it up. So first of all, I want to make sure that I'm kind of going to be centered here. That part's not so important because I'm actually going to be trimming this down quite significantly. So there we go. I've got that. And I should be able to pop that just in the corner ever so slightly. And I'm now going to ink up my image over here with Night of Navy. So I'm going to come in here and do the whole thing in Night of Navy. Okay, so I can see that my Night of Navy is on my whole image. That's the nice thing about using the darker colors, you can actually see that. And then I'm going to close this and really make sure that I get the full image. Now, because we're using the Stamparatus and I was able to get a magnet into one little corner there, this paper should stay still, so if I needed to re-ink this to get any spots that we missed, I would actually be able to close this again and have it lined up. But I still, you know, if I can get away with not doing that, that's the best. Beautiful. Oh, that turned out so well. All right, so we're going to take this piece now. I can put my Stamparatus off to the side. We're going to be using that on the next card as well. Now, this piece is basically a full card front, but what I actually want to do with it is turn it into just a strip that's going to go across a vertical card instead of a horizontal card. So I am actually going to be adhering it like this. So I'm going to be trimming up my two ends so that this is only 4 1/4 wide instead of 5 1/2 wide. So what I'm going to do is grab my paper trimmer. Okay, there we go. And I'm not going to cut this dead center, like I'm not just going to chop off one end. I am actually going to chop off of both ends. So I just took a little strip there, and I can save that for something else. And then I'm going to come in here at 4 1/4 and trim this end. So I want both sides to look like they had some come off of it, because they did. And now this is going to be able to adhere to my card front and create just like a really beautiful little centerpiece here. Before I do that though, I am going to take a piece of 1 1/2 inch by 4 1/4 inch Night of Navy, and I'm going to glue that down right across the center. That's going to give me a space to put a sentiment. So that's going to get glued down. And I am just going to use liquid glue. That's going to let me wiggle it and make sure it's all lined up. There we go. So try and center that as much as possible, top to bottom. And then before we attach this, I am going to tie a beautiful piece of ribbon around this. It's such a gorgeous, sparkly Christmas ribbon. This is our white glittered organdy ribbon. Just so beautiful. And so I'm going to grab enough there that I can tie a bow, wrap this across and around, and pull off another segment here so that I can tie another bow, or like half the other side to tie the other half of the bow. And so that's our white organdy ribbon that I'm using. And again, just like my last one, I'm going to start by tying a knot. Now this one's fun because after you've used this ribbon, you're going to have glitter on you for the remainder of the day. It has so much glitter on it, and it sheds it as you work with it. All right, so my two bunny ears, wrap them around each other, tie my bow, and then I'm going to kind of wiggle that down and make it into the size and shape that I want. All right. For this one, I do want it to be kind of more of a compact bow. So I'm really working it into small bits. There we go. And then trim up my end. There. And now we are ready to attach this to our card front. Now this one I want really stuck to my card front, so I'm not going to use dimensionals. I'm actually going to use my Seal Plus. I'm going to put a strip of it at the top and the bottom, and then a strip of it along each side, just kind of skipping where the ribbon is, but everywhere else gets some Seal Plus. And then this is the nerve-wracking part, is trying to get this on straight, because the Seal Plus is not forgiving and you can't really move it around once it's down. All right, so that is really solidly held to the front of our card now. All right. Now, next step is to create our sentiment. So I have, for my layering circles, I've got just a basic white circle with a silver foil scalloped edge. Okay, we're going to stamp our sentiment first. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to get my Night of Navy ink. And the sentiment I'm using is from that same Christmas to Remember stamp set. It says, "Friends like you make this season special." And there we go. Now to attach this one to our silver foil, I am going to use seal. I don't like to use liquid glue on foil because I find that if you accidentally get some on the foil and it smudges, it leaves a film on your foil and it doesn't look very nice. So there we go, I've got that. And then I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this to attach it to our card front. Peel those off. Awesome. And that's going to pop right into the center like that, right up against our bow. And then the finishing touch to this card is to add some more of those in-color jewels. Now, we don't have a Bermuda Bay or a Night of Navy, but I do really like actually how the soft succulent looks with the blended Bermuda Bay. So we are actually just going to use some soft succulent instead. Oh, for some reason my adhesive on the back of that one's going funny. Right, I'll fix that later. I'm going to use these other ones. So I'm going to come in here with a couple of these and pop those on. So even though it's a different color, actually that one's going to go all the way up here. It's a different color. It just works really, really well. Oh, I should be using my Take a Pick tool. That'd make this so much easier. Well, actually, maybe I do want this on here. All right up there in the corner. Oh, come on. My nails today are not cooperating. Actually, I'm going to put that all the way up there. Oh my goodness. All right. I am going to attempt this again, but use the proper tools this time. So I'm going to grab my Take a Pick tool, put that underneath, pick that up, and lay that down. Okay, usually using jewels is not that challenging. So there we have it. We have our jewels added on there, and that is our finished card. So that's our second card, and it's just so beautiful and sparkly, and yeah, I just love it. All right, and now our final card of the day is using the same festive foliage, but we're going to be doing it in two parts. We're going to kind of break up our image. And so this is where having the Stamparatus really comes into play again. Oh, thank you, Elaine. So I'm going to make sure that this is really lined up how I want it. And I am going to take my paper here and come on in and line this up so that it's just covering up a little bit. So like you can see under here, it goes, here I'll mark it on here so you can see, and so that I can see our leaf tips come out to this line. And so I am going to pop this on so that, you know, it's covering just a good chunk of our card, but not the whole, like not all the way to the center. I'm leaving enough space to put a sentiment. And then I'm going to pop that on there. So now I'm also going to kind of mark where my bottom corner is so that when I flip this, I can do the same thing. Oh, thank you, Lynn. Now, this time when I ink this up, I'm actually going to ink it in Memento Black. And I don't have to ink my whole image. I only have to do half of it. Now, you'll also notice that I was pretty strategic with how I've been using my colors so that I haven't had to clean this and kind of waste your time watching me clean. But to clean this, I'll show you at the very end, is very, very easy with the Simply Chamois. Alright, so I've done that. And again, it's magneted down, so if it didn't come out perfectly, I can just open it and redo it. But I'm really happy with how that turned out. And now I'm going to take my same piece of cardstock, turn it around, put it back into the corner where I have it marked off. So it's nice because these grid papers have the lines, so I can use the lines to get everything straight and evenly measured. And then I'm going to ink up that same half again with my Memento Black. And flipperoo, down it goes. And now we are ready to start adding some color to our piece that we've created. Now, the cool thing about this is doing this technique is I could do a whole bunch of these. I could just like power through and, you know, create 20 of them. And then I can create completely different cards using this piece because it's really all going to be about what colors I combine with this. I could make these red and green. I could do the navy and Bermuda. I could literally do any color combo. But I'm going to use today one of my favorite in-color combos for Christmas, which is soft succulent and polished pink. So it's a little bit of a non-traditional color combo. So the piece of white that I stamped on is cut fairly small because I wanted it to fit onto this Scallop Contours die that I have in the soft succulent. So we're going to layer those up after I've done my coloring, and then I am going to do my sentiment in polished pink. Now that might not be kind of a thing that some of you are into, having like pink Christmas cards and stuff, in which case pair it up with like cherry cobbler or Mary Merlot. Like a soft succulent looks so good with all of our reds and pinks. So I'm going to stamp the Merry Christmas sentiment on here, and so I'm just going to bring my Pierce mat back so that I've got that nice sponging behind so I get a good clear image. I'm going to ink up my Merry Christmas in polished pink and stamp that right there in the middle. And there we go. And that is it for my polished pink ink. So I'm going to put that away. Oh, big reach. Alright. And then my leaves, I can leave these black and white. I can color them. I could do all sorts of things with them. So what I've actually decided I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in some soft succulent and some evening evergreen, and we're going to work with those and color these in. So I'm going to start with my evening evergreen, and this is my light one, not my dark one. You're going to see, even though it's the light one, it is very, very dark. And so I'm going to do just a small portion of the leaves in this very, very dark color. I don't want a ton, and so I'm just being super careful at my edges here that I don't go off onto my Stampin' Pierce mat. And now, of course, whatever I do on one side, I have to do on the other because I have the mirror, or well, not mirror image, but the reverse image. So I like it as well because when you stamp this same piece but flipped, we kind of get the diagonal symmetry instead of like just a straight up and down kind of thing happening. All right, so that was my evening evergreen. Now, the rest of this I'm going to do in my soft succulent, but I'm going to kind of go back and forth between my light and my dark. So first thing I'm going to do is come in with just my dark and do the bottom half of a bunch of these leaves. And then I'm going to do the top in my light soft succulent. And it's okay if, like, as you're coloring that in, you're kind of overlapping onto the other side. That works out just fine. All right, with that one done, I'm going to come down here and do that whole leaf in light. And then for my holly leaves, I'm going to go over the center, like those black lines that we have, I'm going to go over those in my dark and then immediately color over them in my soft succulent. And then those two will just blend together, and the really harsh definition between those will go away as they blend together. All right, now I'm going to flip this around and do the same thing on the other side. So again, the lower leaves in my dark, the upper leaves in my light. And I don't know, I'm not like an artist. I don't know if that's like the correct shading or anything, but it's just what was visually appealing to me. So, you know, if you're going for something more realistic, that might not be the right way to color these. And then again, go over these centers with our dark one. And then the whole leaf in the light as quickly as you can, so that these are alcohol-based pens, so that the alcohol hasn't dried, and these will actually blend together. All right. So there is, you know, well, there doesn't have to be. We didn't on the last card, but there can be a fair amount of coloring with these. And then for our very, very dark, I'm going to actually grab our darkest evergreen again and go in and do these little pine needles with our darkest evergreen. And again, these are just like super fast little lines. You don't want to be putting too much color there because it will kind of bleed and make your card not look as nice as you'd like. All right. I could have gone in here with a bright fun color as well, but I'm trying to kind of keep the fun color to our polished pink and have everything else be a little bit darker or muted. There we go. And what we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So flip it around. I don't know why I can't just color the top like as it hangs upside down, but for some reason coloring these images that way really it bothers me. I have a really hard time with it, so I actually have to flip it around and color these so that they're like right side up. All right, just about done. A few more needles here. Excellent. Okay, so with that going on, I am now going to glue this onto our soft succulent base that I have, and I am going to use liquid glue for this, just so that I can wiggle it around a bit if I have to. And you can see here on the back side, the blends do kind of bleed through your cardstock, which is one reason why I tend to use them on layers and not directly onto a card front. Okay, so I'm going to pop in here, do that. So that is glued onto our soft succulent layer. And then I am going to attach this to our card front, but I'm going to do it with dimensionals after I add some trim. So earlier today I used the gold trim from the Simply Elegant trim. So I've got a few loose bits in here from other projects. Just like to use the mason jars to keep everything a little contained. So earlier I used the gold trim from the Simply Elegant trim. Now I'm going to use the silver. And this one we are going to be able to see our silver, so I am going to double wrap it, which is my usual. So I've just got enough there to tie a bow, and then I'm coming down to one of those little crevices and across, and then I'm actually, you know what, I think we'll actually stick with one crevice for both. We'll see. We don't have to commit to that yet. Where are my snips? There we go. And then snip that off so I have enough to tie a bow. Put that away. There we go. And now, so yeah, I am going to pop those up into, so that they're in two separate notches. And then as these come across my card front, I'm going to wrap this underneath so it pins them together. So even though they're separate, they're going to get pinned together in one spot. And tie that around and make my knot. All right. And yep, that's looking good. And then once I've got my knot made, then I can do my bunny ears and create my bow here. And get that back under control. So this one's really trying to twist and kind of go sideways. So I think I'm just going to work with it and let it be wild and crazy. I might just tame that little one a bit. Or not, it doesn't want to. That's okay. We'll let it curve up and be crazy. Maybe. Alright, there we go. I got it to sit down a bit. Excellent. So yeah, when you're working with ribbon and trim and stuff, it's really just, you know, keep adjusting it, pulling it, twisting it, turning it until it sits the way you want it to sit. Alright, got those trimmed up. And now this piece is going to go onto our card front using dimensionals. Now, if you wanted to make sure that your trim stayed in place, you could put a dimensional on there. For this one, because it's into the grooves of the scallop, I'm not too worried about it, so I'm just going to do one above, one below, and peel these off. Now, I could have put this onto a more colorful background as well, but I like not having to line my cards, so I like using white bases. There we go. Pop this on here. Center that. And then our finishing touch on this one, just like the other 3 cards, this is the reason why this is my giveaway for this workshop, is the In Color Gems, is because we're going to use our In Color Gems on our 3rd card of the day. And so we used our polished pink ink, and we are going to come in. Oh, actually, you know what? The Evening Evergreen looks so good though. So you could choose polished pink or Evening Evergreen. I am going to go with my original gut, which is these polished pinks, and I'm not going to mess around with these. I am going to just come in here with my tool and do it right from the beginning. And so I'm going to put one up there and then do a small one. I like that they come in 2 sizes, so you can kind of, you know, play around with it. So I'm going to do those 2 up there, and then one down here on that little dot. And so kind of keeping with that diagonal flow that we had going. All right. The live is being recorded, Lynn, so you'll be able to watch it again and, you know, kind of follow through and make these cards yourself if you have materials or similar materials. And so that is our final card. So I'll bring all 3 cards back in just to show you how different we can make one stamp set look. So this is all being created with our Festive Foliage stamp set. I can bring that in there to show you as well. Well, not really. We'll try to fit it all into the screen. So there we go. 3 very different cards, all created using one stamp set. So it's really nice and easy to create with this, and like even this one, you know, we made it a bit more challenging by snipping it and changing the orientation, but you could literally just stamp this onto a card front and, you know, put a color onto another color, add a sentiment, and be done. So really great for fast Christmas cards, especially if you've got a lot to create. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today. And oh, I'm so glad you love them, Elaine. So feel free to rewatch these videos. It takes a few minutes, I think, before the video will repost once I'm done, but it will be there, so you can come back and watch it over and over again. There's also kind of a Christmassy looking graphic that says enter here, and I think it says enter here. That is the link to my door prize draw. So if you fill in my door prize draw, I will do a draw on Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll see how work is going. So Tuesday or Wednesday, so you have some time to fill that in and to share this workshop page with your friends. I'd love to have new people join the group. Lynn, you just joined, so thank you so much. And yeah, so share this with your friends. They'll have all weekend to get in on my ordering special with those in color gems or jewels, and to get entered into the door prize draw. And so that's just going to be some mystery mail. And so something nice will show up at your door if you win that. I will do the draw, like use the wheel and do the little video on this group page. So yeah, you guys have lots of time to share this with friends, get people watching and seeing these cards and seeing what they can do with that festive foliage. And then my link tree is in the description of this video, and you can go there to see upcoming classes, to check out my shop, and all of my social media. So, you know, if you don't want to miss these kinds of things, I always advertise that they're going to happen on my Stampin' with Leah Facebook page. So join that. And these will also be shared with YouTube. So you'll be able to find them there, and I'll post the links for that in a little while. So have a great day, and do watch for some of the posts about my classes. I'll put those up later today as well. Thanks so much for joining, and have a great day. Bye.